Okay. Let's take our seats. Yesher koach. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. So earlier in the week, many know we had a TBT movie night. We watched a documentary that traced the history of Jews in comedy when Jews were funny. A lot of good classic lines, a lot of great material. And I was thinking about a lot of that, but I wanted to open this Shabbat with one that you probably haven't heard, about a guy who buys a parrot. Yes, a parrot. And in the pet store, it's wonderful. The parrot's sweet. It says, "Good afternoon, how are you?" Perfect parrot. Brings it home. All the parrot does is curse. Cursing and cursing. The guy gets upset. He says to the parrot, "I have kids here. You gotta stop with the cursing, parrot. I don't allow that in my house." Parrot keeps cursing. So he says, "All right, fine. You do that one more time, and I'm going to have to punish you." Parrot looks at him, curses. "All right," he says, "fine, I warned you." He takes the parrot, grabs the parrot, it's a little explicit, he puts it in the freezer. And he sets a timer. He says, "I'm going to leave you in here now for 30 minutes. He closes the freezer, he waits 30 minutes. 30 minutes are up, opens the freezer, the parrot is shivering. It's miserable, it's cold. He says, "Okay, I'm serious now. You're going to stop with the cursing?" And the parrot says, "Yeah, all right, I get the message. I'm going to stop." He says, "Okay, fine, we're done." Puts the parrot back on its perch. It's still shivering, but it's learned the lesson. Parrot says, though, "I just have one question for you. Just one." Man says, "What is it?" Parrot says, "What did the chicken do?" Takes a minute. You'll get there. With all that's going on in the world, let's laugh a little. I tell it for a reason, guys, not just because I've always wanted to tell that one from the Bima. But I tell it because this week's parasha is all about, in its way, focusing us on reward and punishment. Do the mitzvot we read in the portion that we chanted just a moment ago. Do the mitzvot and blessings will come to you. Follow that path. All good stray from that path. And the opposite. And this concept, what it's called traditionally in our literature, schar v'onesh, reward and punishment, it's there front and center in this reading. You do good in life, you're going to get a reward from Shemayim, from heaven. It just baffles. It baffles the mind of modern Jews. It frustrates us, I think, 21st century Jews, perhaps more than any other theological concept in the Torah, because you might say, the world doesn't work like that, I know. So you come to me at Kiddush and you say, if that's all true, Rabbi, everything we just read in Ekev is true about being rewarded for mitzvot, about having blessings for following the path that God set out. Well, here I am in shul today, and I was in shul last week, and the week before. Why aren't my stocks performing? I'm doing mitzvot. Rabbi, where's my check in the mail from Shem? Because that's how the Torah kind of described it in Ekev. It talks about tangible blessings of abundance, oil and grain and wine and cattle, all of the things that were really markers of luxury in the ancient world as a reward for the mitzvot. And we don't have a great answer to that question. In fact, there are some strands of Judaism that, not having a great answer to that question, choose simply not to deal with it. And so what do? The section in our prayer book that focuses most intently on this concept of reward and punishment, we read it every day. It's the second paragraph of Shema. They take it out. If you open a Reform or Reconstructionist prayer book, you're not going to find that there. Because they say it challenges what I believe as a modern Jew, and they might even go further, not to disparage them, and say it's naive, it's simplistic, it's archaic. We know better today than the Torah knew then. We know the world doesn't work that way. But I have to suggest why I read the second paragraph of Shema and find it to be meaningful, why I read this parasha and find it to be meaningful. I think our sages, our Torah, are a lot wiser than some modern Jews will give it credit for. And it all makes sense to me, this concept of reward for mitzvot, if you understand it in the right way, if you understand it as educational incentive. Let me give you an example. In the schools in Eastern Europe, a long time, traditional, the Heder, right? Here's what they would do. That a kid who was in Aleph Bet, learning the Aleph Bet, they would have a custom. You know what they would do? They would smear some honey on the letters of the Aleph Bet as a reward, as they were learning it. Okay, so the children are going to grow up now and they're going to start to feel that Torah is something sweet and that's good. But by the time they reached 4th grade, 5th grade, they didn't have to put the honey anymore. Because they hoped that by that point, the child would realize that learning Torah is sweet and good and wonderful in and of itself. And the educational incentive was there and it worked, but they find ultimately, we hope, a sweetness in Torah. Not in honey. Not in the external reward. And I think the entire philosophy of mitzvot, in a way, is like that. Moshe lists the rewards here to get us in the door. But once you're in the door, it's so that people ultimately will come to see that those external reasons, they're not why we're here. If I offered you $100 to come to shul every week, might be nice. You might say, oh, that's pretty good. But it would cheapen the experience tremendously. And anyone who loves being Jewish, anyone who cares about making Judaism a deep part of your lives, you understand that ultimately it's not about what you gain from it, it's the beauty just of doing it. And that's where the rabbis of the Talmud ultimately land. They teach us, schar mitzvah mitzvah. You heard that phrase? Very important. The reward for a mitzvah is what? The fact that you did it. The fact that you got to be part of something selfless and good in a world that's so much about what can I get. You got to do something where you gave back to something bigger than yourself that's so much more meaningful and more lasting. Infinitely more lasting than any so-called tangible reward you would ever want. That's the true schar. That's the true reward. Beautiful story that's told. Mother Teresa. She was once tending to the wounds of a leper. She's tending to the wounds of a leper. Someone sees her there on the side of the road. It says, ugh, I wouldn't do that, not for $1 million. And she turns to him and responds with a wise smile, neither would I. Neither would I. I think you get that. We have an equivalent of that story too in our tradition. It's about the Baal Shem Tov. Do you know who the Baal Shem Tov was? The great founder of Hasidic Judaism. Baal Shem Tov once found out that he lost the world to come. He lost the world to come. Whatever heaven is, whatever Olam Haba is, the Baal Shem Tov found out he's not going to get to go there. Yikes. So what did he do? Did he cry? Did he mourn? He's standing there dancing and celebrating and singing. And they look to him and they say, you crazy chassid? What are you singing for? You've lost heaven. You've lost the world to come. And he said, now I know. When I do something good in this world, when I do something good today, when I do a mitzvah, now I can be sure I'm doing it for its own sake. Not because of what I'll eventually get as a result. And in living a life of goodness, I have everything I need. Okay. I'm not telling you that as Jews we don't value the external rewards, that we don't value a secure financial life, that we don't value going to good schools and getting good jobs and earning something in this world. Of course we do. I'm not telling you be Mother Teresa or be the Baal Shem Tov. We're not. But I have to bring this up because so often, and especially as we get closer to the high holidays, people will come, people who are disconnected from shul mostly, and they'll say something like, why be Jewish this year? What will I get out of it? What is Judaism going to give to me? What will it give back to my life? And I have to say, well, it's true. You will get a lot from being Jewish. It'll make you a more thoughtful person around those you're with. It certainly will give you a bigger social network. There's plenty of people to schmooze with. It might even make you more successful financially. You may not know, in South Korea, the Talmud is taught in public schools because they believe they're not converting. They believe that by studying Talmud, they'll actually lead to more success and more wealth in the next generation. So they make the kids learn Talmud in school. And that's why they're doing it. Okay. Maybe you'll get those things too. But that's not why we do a mitzvah. Baal Shem Tov, he didn't want Olam Haba because he knew that you do something good here. You make a beautiful Shabbos. You help someone in need. You kiss your mezuzah. You say a prayer, whatever it is. But you do it without ulterior motive. You do it without expectation. You do it with reverence and selflessness. That is Olam Haba. That is, in that moment, you could say, heaven on earth. So again, not saying you should be the Baal Shem Tov, not saying you should be Mother Teresa and be selfless 24/7. I'm not. None of us, I don't think. But in a parsha like this one, that starts with a long list of rewards, all the good that you can get out of being Jewish, yes, a life of prosperity and abundance and all those good things, that might be on your Amazon wish list too. Before all else, I hope this Shabbat and all these Shabbatot that lead us to the high holidays in particular, when we're really assessing our lives, a life of pride and dedication to something bigger than what you want to get. That is what we call truly a good life. Torah says, "Vehem chayenu ve'orech yameinu." So let its wisdom and strength fill your days. It is your life and the length of your days. And that is the great reward that we can know. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody.